What happens when the man you humiliate finally stands up for himself, with the law on his side? I thought I knew everything about power, about getting what I wanted, about keeping men wrapped around my finger. I was so wrong, it almost destroyed everything I had left. My name is Hypatia Crowe, and this is the story of how I went from having it all to losing everything in 6 months. How I went from mocking my quiet, dependable husband to standing alone in a lawyer's office, holding divorce papers that would change my life forever. It started with what I thought was harmless flirtation. It ended with me learning that some games have consequences you never see coming. The kitchen felt suffocating that Tuesday evening, filled with the smell of reheated takeout and the weight of my growing resentment. Elliot sat across from me, methodically eating his Chinese food while scrolling through work emails on his phone. Our 7-year-old daughter, Mila, picked at her lo mein, and my sister Samara lounged against the counter, wine glass in hand, watching the domestic scene with barely concealed amusement. "So I met this guy at the marketing conference today," I said, my voice deliberately casual. "Ryder Knox. He runs promotions for those downtown clubs. You know, the ones that actually have life in them." Elliot looked up from his phone, his brown eyes tired behind wire-rimmed glasses. "That's nice, honey. Did you learn anything useful for the campaign?" I felt my jaw tighten. Even when I was trying to get a reaction from him, he remained maddeningly practical. "Oh, I learned plenty. Like how some men actually know how to make conversation, how to make a woman feel interesting." Samara snorted into her wine. "Sounds like someone's got a crush." "I don't have a crush," I snapped, then caught myself. "I'm just saying it was refreshing to talk to someone who has actual energy. Someone who doesn't spend every evening buried in server maintenance reports." Elliot set down his phone with deliberate care. "I'm sorry if my job bores you, Hypatia, but someone has to keep the systems running that pay for this house, this food, Mila's school." "Oh, here we go with the martyr act." I turned to Samara, who was grinning now. "You should see this guy, Sam. Tall, confident, drives a motorcycle. Remember when men used to be exciting?" "Mom," Mila said quietly, "can I go watch TV?" "Finish your dinner first, sweetheart," Elliot said, his voice gentle with her, in a way that made my irritation spike higher. "Why can't you be more like him?" The words came out sharper than I'd intended. "When's the last time you surprised me? When's the last time you made me feel like I was worth pursuing?" Elliot's face went very still. "I pursue you every day by going to work, by taking care of our family, by being boring." I slammed my chopsticks down. "By being safe and predictable and completely forgettable. Do you know what Ryder said to me today? He said I had fire in my eyes." "Fire, Elliot. When's the last time you noticed my eyes?" Samara was practically vibrating with glee. "Oh, this is good. Tell me more about Motorcycle Man." "His name is Ryder, and he actually knows how to live. He told me about this gallery opening he's promoting this weekend. Said I should come check it out, meet some interesting people for once." "You're married," Elliot said quietly. "I'm not dead." I stood up, pacing to the window. "Just because I have a ring on my finger doesn't mean I have to stop existing as a person. Ryder sees that. He sees me as more than just someone's wife and someone's mother." Mila had stopped eating entirely, her small face pinched with confusion and worry. Elliot reached over and squeezed her hand. "Maybe we should discuss this later," he said. "Why? Because you don't want your daughter to see that her mother has opinions, that she might want something more than this?" I gestured around the kitchen with its outdated appliances and family photos. "This isn't enough for me anymore, Elliot. I need to feel alive." Samara raised her glass in a mock toast. "To feeling alive, and to men who actually notice when a woman walks into a room." "Exactly." I pulled out my phone, making sure Elliot could see me typing. At least someone appreciates me. The text was simple. "Tonight?" Ryder's response came back immediately. "Always ready for you, gorgeous." I showed the screen to Samara, who squealed with delight. Elliot's face had gone pale, but he just stood up and started clearing the dishes. "Where are you going?" I demanded. "To help Mila with her homework," he said without looking at me. "Someone should." After he left the room, Samara sidled up to me. "Girl, you are playing with fire, and I am here for it." But as I watched my husband's retreating figure, something cold settled in my stomach. For just a moment, I wondered if I was making a mistake. Then my phone buzzed again. Ryder had sent a photo of himself at some trendy restaurant, all sharp cheekbones and dangerous smile. The doubt evaporated. I deserved to feel wanted. I deserved excitement. I deserved better than Hypatia Crowe. The next morning at my marketing office, I couldn't stop thinking about Ryder's text. My coworker, Jessica, leaned over my cubicle wall, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You look different today," she said. "Good different, like you have a secret." I glanced around the open office space, then lowered my voice. "I might be meeting someone tonight, someone who actually appreciates me." "Ooh, spill. Is this about that club promoter you mentioned yesterday?" "Ryder Knox." Even saying his name sent a little thrill through me. "He wants to show me the real nightlife scene. Says I've been wasting away in suburbia too long." Jessica's eyebrows shot up. "What about Elliot?" "What about him?" I shrugged, trying to look nonchalant. "He's so wrapped up in his computer systems, he barely notices I'm alive. Last night I practically threw myself at him, trying to get some kind of reaction, and he just wanted to talk about Mila's homework." "So you're really going to do this?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Elliot's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," I answered, my voice automatically taking on the bored tone I'd perfected over the past few months. "Hi, honey. I was thinking maybe we could get a babysitter tonight, go to that new Italian place you mentioned. Just the two of us." The irony was almost laughable. Now he wanted to make an effort. "I can't tonight. I have to work late. Big campaign presentation tomorrow." "On a Wednesday? That seems unusual." "Well, that's how it is in marketing. Unlike IT, we don't get to work bankers' hours." I could hear the edge in my voice, but I didn't care. "Some of us have to actually be creative and flexible." There was a long pause. "Okay, I'll pick up Mila from school and make dinner." "Great, you're so good at the domestic stuff." I hung up before he could respond. Jessica was staring at me. "Damn, girl, you're really burning bridges." "I'm not burning anything. I'm just tired of being taken for granted." I turned back to my computer, but the spreadsheet blurred in front of me. "He never makes me feel special, Jess. When's the last time your husband planned something spontaneous?" "Last weekend, he surprised me with breakfast in bed." "See? That's what I'm talking about. Elliot's idea of romance is remembering to put his dishes in the dishwasher." My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Samara told me about your new friend. Good for you, sweetheart. You deserve to have some fun. Elliot's always been too serious for you." I showed the message to Jessica. "Even my mom agrees. Your mom has been divorced 3 times. And she's happier now than she ever was when she was settling." I stood up, suddenly energized. "I'm going to meet Ryder tonight. I'm going to remember what it feels like to be desired." At 6:30, I was supposed to be working late. Instead, I was touching up my lipstick in the bathroom mirror of Pulse, the trendy downtown club where Ryder had asked me to meet him. The music thrummed through the walls, and I could hear laughter and conversation from the main floor. I'd changed out of my work clothes into a black dress I'd bought on impulse last month, something I'd never worn because Elliot and I never went anywhere that required it. Now, seeing myself in the dim bathroom lighting, I felt transformed. "Hypatia?" A woman's voice made me turn. It was Karen, a friend from Mila's school PTA. Her eyes widened as she took in my outfit and surroundings. "I didn't expect to see you here." My cheeks burned. "Oh, hi, Karen. Work function. You know how it is." "Right." Her tone was carefully neutral. "Well, I should get back to my friends. See you at the bake sale meeting." After she left, I stared at myself in the mirror. For a moment, I looked like a stranger, a woman sneaking around, lying to neighbors, texting another man while her husband made dinner for their daughter. Then Ryder appeared in the doorway, all leather jacket and confident smile, and the doubt vanished. "There's my beautiful marketing genius," he said, pulling me close for a kiss on the cheek that lingered just a moment too long. "Ready to see how the other half lives?" The VIP section was everything I'd imagined: plush seating, dim lighting, beautiful people laughing and flirting without a care in the world. Ryder introduced me to his friends as his special lady, and for the first time in months, I felt seen. "Your husband doesn't mind you being out so late?" asked a woman named Crystal, her tone more curious than judgmental. "He's busy with work," I said, taking a sip of the expensive cocktail Ryder had ordered for me. "We have an understanding." Ryder's hand found mine under the table. "Hypatia's got her own life. I respect that about her." When I got home at midnight, the house was dark except for the porch light Elliot had left on for me. I found a plate of food wrapped in the refrigerator with a note: "In case you're hungry. E." For some reason, that simple kindness made me angrier than any accusation would have. I didn't deserve his consideration. I deserved passion. By Friday, I was practically floating. Ryder had texted me every day, sending photos of interesting places around the city, asking about my work, making me feel like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. When he suggested we all meet for dinner at Marcello's, the upscale family restaurant where Elliot and I used to go for anniversaries, I jumped at the chance. "It'll be fun," I told Samara over the phone. "Just a group dinner. You, me, Ryder, maybe a few of his friends. Nothing inappropriate." "And Elliot? What about him?" "Are you going to invite your husband to dinner with your boyfriend?" "He's not my boyfriend," I protested, though the word sent a secret thrill through me. "He's just a friend who happens to appreciate me." "Right. Well, this should be interesting." I did invite Elliot, almost as an afterthought. To my surprise, he said yes. "I'd like to meet this Ryder," he said quietly, "since he seems to be such an important part of your life lately." Saturday evening found us seated around a large table at Marcello's. Ryder had brought 2 friends, Crystal and a guy named Jake who worked in event planning. Samara was in her element, flirting shamelessly with Jake while I basked in Ryder's attention. Elliot looked uncomfortable in his button-down shirt and khakis, so different from Ryder's casual confidence in jeans and a black t-shirt that showed off his gym-toned arms. "So, Elliot," Ryder said, cutting into his steak with theatrical precision, "Hypatia tells me you work in IT. That must be steady." "It is," Elliot replied evenly. "Someone has to keep the infrastructure running." Right. Very important." Ryder's tone was patronizing in a way that made me wince, though I didn't say anything. "Me, I'm more of a people person. I like creating experiences, bringing energy to spaces, making people feel alive." Samara laughed, a little too loudly. "That's so much more interesting than fixing computers." I felt a flush of embarrassment for Elliot, followed immediately by irritation at his lack of response. Why couldn't he defend himself? Why couldn't he show some fire? "Actually," Elliot said, "I do network security for the hospital system. If my work fails, people die." An awkward silence fell over the table. Ryder recovered first, flashing his practiced smile. "Well, that's intense. Good thing you're so detail-oriented." He turned to me, his hand casually brushing mine on the table. "Hypatia's got such a creative spirit. She needs someone who can match that energy, you know?" I felt myself leaning into his attention, even as part of me registered the hurt that flickered across Elliot's face. "Ryder's been showing me parts of the city I never knew existed," I said, my voice bright and artificial. "Art galleries, underground music venues, places where actual interesting people go." "Sounds exciting," Elliot said. "It is." I looked directly at him. "It's nice to feel like I'm more than just a suburban mom for once." Crystal jumped in, perhaps sensing the tension. "Ryder has such great taste in people. He only surrounds himself with the most fascinating individuals. Like our Hypatia here, Ryder said, his fingers now openly intertwined with mine. Beautiful, intelligent, full of untapped potential. Samara practically purred. It's so nice to see someone appreciate my sister properly. Elliot's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I appreciate my wife. Do you? The words came out before I could stop them. Because most of the time, I feel invisible in my own house. When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? When's the last time you planned something special for us? I plan things. I suggested dinner just this week. Dinner at home with takeout menus. That's not special, Elliot. That's routine. Ryder squeezed my hand. A woman like Hypatia deserves to be celebrated. She deserves adventure, spontaneity. She deserves to feel desired. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Elliot's face had gone very pale, but his voice remained steady. She deserves to be respected and protected. Protected from what? I laughed, but it sounded harsh even to my own ears. From having fun, from feeling alive, from making mistakes she'll regret. The table went dead silent. Ryder's smile turned sharp. Sounds like someone's a little controlling. I'm not controlling, Elliot said quietly. I'm concerned. About what? That your wife might realize she has other options. That was too far, even for me. But before I could say anything, Elliot was standing up, placing his napkin carefully beside his plate. I think I should go, he said. Enjoy your evening. He walked away without looking back, leaving me sitting there with my hand still in Ryder's, feeling like I'd won and lost something at the same time. Well, Samara said after a moment, that was dramatic. Ryder lifted his wine glass. To freedom from boring men who don't know what they have. I clinked my glass against his, but the wine tasted bitter. Later, as Ryder walked me to my car, he pulled me into the shadows between two buildings and kissed me properly for the first time. It was everything I'd imagined. Passionate, urgent, dangerous. Your husband's an idiot, he whispered against my lips. If you were mine, I'd never let you out of my sight. Driving home, I replayed those words over and over. If you were mine. The possibility hung in front of me like a golden door, waiting to be opened. I found Elliot in our bedroom, reading. He looked up when I entered, but didn't speak. He's just jealous because you're having fun, I said, though he hadn't asked. Some people can't stand to see others happy. Elliot marked his place in his book and set it aside. Are you happy, Hypatia? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I mean, are you actually happy, or are you just running from something? I stared at him, this quiet man I'd married, this father of my child who still looked at me like I was worth saving. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, and went to take a shower. But as the hot water ran over me, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe Elliot saw something I didn't want to admit. 3 weeks later, I was practically living a double life. Days belonged to work and family obligations, but nights increasingly belonged to Ryder's world. I'd become a regular at Pulse and the other clubs in his circuit, staying out until 2 or 3 in the morning, then dragging myself home to a house that felt more like a prison every day. Elliot had stopped asking where I'd been. Instead, he'd taken over most of the household duties, getting Mila ready for school, packing her lunches, handling bedtime stories. Part of me was grateful for the freedom. Another part was irritated that he was making it so easy for me to pull away. You're glowing, Jessica observed on a Thursday afternoon. This Ryder guy must be good for you. He makes me feel like myself again, I said, touching up my lipstick in my compact mirror. Like the person I was before I got buried under mortgages and parent-teacher conferences. And Elliot's okay with all this? I shrugged. He's adjusting. Marriage is about growth, right? About becoming who you're meant to be. That evening, I was getting ready to meet Ryder at a new gallery opening when my phone rang. Mila's name appeared on the screen. Hi, sweetheart, I answered, balancing the phone between my ear and shoulder while I applied mascara. Mummy, when are you coming home? Her voice was small, tired. "I'll be home later, baby. Daddy's there with you, right?" "Yeah, but I miss you. You're always gone now." Something twisted in my chest. "I'm not always gone. I was home Sunday morning. For like an hour, and then you left again." I set down my mascara wand, really looking at myself in the mirror for the first time. When had I become the kind of mother who only saw her daughter for an hour on Sunday mornings? "I'll try to be home earlier tonight, okay? Promise?" The word stuck in my throat. Ryder had planned something special, a private party at his penthouse apartment. He'd been building up to it all week, hinting that tonight would be different, that we'd finally have time alone together. "I'll try, sweetheart. I love you." "Love you too, Mommy." After I hung up, I stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was perfectly made up, dressed in an outfit that cost more than our monthly grocery budget, ready to spend another evening in the arms of a man who wasn't my husband. I looked beautiful. I looked free. So why did I feel so empty? By the time I reached Ryder's penthouse, the party was in full swing. The space was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on the walls, beautiful people everywhere. Ryder greeted me with a kiss that tasted like expensive whiskey. "There's my queen," he murmured. "I was starting to think you'd changed your mind." "Never," I said, though something felt off about his greeting. Usually, he was more attentive, more focused on me. Tonight, his eyes kept wandering to other women in the room. I spent the evening trying to recapture the magic of our early encounters, but Ryder seemed distracted. He introduced me to people as a friend, not his special lady, like he had before. When I tried to pull him aside for a private moment, he laughed and said the night was too young to disappear. Around midnight, I found him on the balcony, talking to a redhead in a dress that barely qualified as clothing. They were standing close together, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing at some private joke. "Ryder?" I approached them, trying to keep my voice light. "I was looking for you." He turned, and for just a moment I saw something like annoyance flash across his face before he smiled. "Hypatia, meet Scarlett. She's a model. Scarlett, this is Hypatia. She works in marketing." The dismissive way he said marketing stung. Scarlett looked me up and down with the practiced assessment of someone used to sizing up competition. "Nice to meet you," she said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "Scarlett was just telling me about a photo shoot she did in Milan," Ryder continued. "Amazing stuff. Real artistic vision." I stood there feeling like a third wheel while they resumed their conversation about fashion and travel, and all the glamorous things I'd never experienced. When Ryder's hand moved to the small of Scarlett's back, something inside me cracked. "I think I should go," I said. Ryder barely looked at me. "Sure thing. Thanks for coming." Thanks for coming. Like I was just another party guest, not the woman he'd been pursuing for weeks. I made it to my car before the tears started. Sitting in the parking garage of his building, I called the only person I knew would answer. "Samara, can you talk?" "It's almost 1 a.m. What's wrong?" "I think I made a mistake." "With Ryder? What happened?" I told her about the party, about Scarlett, about feeling invisible in a room full of people who were supposed to be my new social circle. "Oh, honey," Samara said, and for the first time in weeks, she sounded genuinely concerned, rather than amused. "Maybe you should come home." "What if Elliot's asleep? What if he doesn't want to talk to me? He's your husband. He'll want to talk to you." But when I pulled into my driveway 20 minutes later, I sat in the car for a long time, staring at the house where my real life was waiting. Through the living room window, I could see the soft glow of a lamp. Elliot was still awake. I thought about Mila's voice on the phone, asking when I was coming home. I thought about all the dinners I'd missed, all the bedtime stories Elliot had read alone, all the moments of my daughter's life I'd traded for the thrill of feeling desired by a man who apparently desired everyone. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryder. "Sorry about tonight. You're being a little clingy lately. Let's take a break. Clingy, after weeks of him pursuing me, convincing me I deserved better, making me believe I was special. Now I was clingy. I stared at the message until the words blurred, then deleted his number from my phone. Some games I was learning had rules that changed without warning. I didn't go inside that night. Instead, I drove around until dawn, trying to figure out how to face my family after weeks of treating them like obstacles to my happiness. When I finally pulled into the driveway at 7 a.m., Elliot's car was already gone. A note on the kitchen counter explained he'd taken Mila to school early and would be working late. The house felt different, cleaner, more organized, but somehow emptier. Family photos I'd stopped noticing were gone from their usual spots. Mila's artwork was neatly organized instead of scattered across the refrigerator. Even the mail was sorted into precise stacks. It looked like the home of someone who'd given up expecting chaos. I spent the day cleaning obsessively, as if I could scrub away the last month of my life. By the time Elliot came home with Mila that evening, I had dinner ready, actually cooked, not ordered, and was wearing the kind of casual outfit I used to wear before I started dressing to impress Ryder. "Mommy!" Mila ran to me, her face lighting up in a way that made my chest ache. "You're home." "I'm home," I said, lifting her up and holding her tight. She smelled like school and playground and childhood, and I realized I'd forgotten how good it felt to be needed by someone who loved me unconditionally. Elliot hung back, watching us with an expression I couldn't read. "How was work?" I asked, setting Mila down. "Fine." His voice was carefully neutral. "How was your evening?" The question hung between us, loaded with weeks of unspoken tension. Mila looked from me to her father, sensing the undercurrents she was too young to understand. "It was enlightening," I said finally. Over dinner, I tried to recapture some sense of normalcy. I asked Mila about school, helped her with homework, listened to her chatter about friends and teachers and all the small dramas of second grade, but I could feel Elliot watching me, waiting for the other shoe to drop. After Mila went to bed, we sat in the living room like strangers. The silence stretched until I couldn't stand it anymore. "I know you're angry," I said. "I'm not angry." He was reading a technical manual, not looking at me. "I'm tired." "Of me?" "Of pretending this is sustainable." The words hit harder than shouting would have. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I can't keep doing this, Hypatia. I can't keep pretending that what you've been doing is okay, that our marriage is okay, that any of this is normal." "I made a mistake," I said. "I got caught up in feeling appreciated for once. But it's over now. Ryder and I—" "This isn't about Ryder." He finally looked at me, and I was startled by how tired he looked. "This is about you, about what you want from life, from our marriage, from me. I want us to work this out. Do you? Or do you just want me to be here as backup while you figure out your next adventure?" The accusation stung because it felt uncomfortably close to the truth. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You've spent weeks telling me I'm boring, that I don't make you feel special, that you deserve better. Now that your exciting new life didn't work out, you want to come home and have everything be the same." "You'll take me back anyway," I said, the words coming out more defensive than I'd intended. "You always do. That's who you are." Something shifted in his expression. Maybe that's the problem. Before I could ask what he meant, he stood up and headed for the stairs. "Where are you going?" "To bed. I have an early meeting tomorrow." I followed him upstairs, panic starting to build in my chest. "Elliot, wait. We need to talk about this." "I'm done talking, Hypatia. I've been talking for weeks, and you haven't been listening." "I'm listening now." He turned to face me at the top of the stairs. "Are you? Or are you just scared because your backup plan fell through?" "You're not my backup plan. You're my husband." "Then act like it." That night, he slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. I lay awake in our empty bed, staring at the ceiling and trying to understand how I'd gotten here. 6 weeks ago, I'd been bored but secure. Now I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, watching my life crumble away beneath my feet. The next morning, I woke up to find Elliot already gone again. Another note on the counter, this one shorter. Taking Mila to Mum's after school, back late. His mother's house. Irene Crowe had never particularly liked me, though she'd always been polite for Elliot's sake. The thought of him discussing our problems with her made my stomach clench. I called Samara, needing to talk to someone who would understand. "So you're back home," she said when I explained the situation. "How's it going?" "Elliot's being difficult. He's acting like I committed some unforgivable sin instead of just having a little fun." "Hypatia," Samara said slowly, "you were having an affair." "It wasn't an affair. We never actually. You were emotionally cheating on your husband and publicly humiliating him. That's an affair." I was quiet for a moment, stung by her bluntness. "I thought you supported me." "I supported you having some excitement in your life. I didn't support you destroying your marriage." After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and tried to figure out how everyone had turned against me. I was the victim here, the neglected wife who'd been driven to seek attention elsewhere. Why was everyone acting like I was the villain? My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mrs. Crowe, this is David Martinez from Martinez and Associates. I'm calling on behalf of your husband." My blood went cold. "What kind of associates?" "We're a family law firm, ma'am. Mr. Crowe has asked me to schedule a meeting with you for tomorrow afternoon. Would 2 o'clock work for your schedule?" The world tilted sideways. "A family law firm? Are you saying—" "I think it would be best if we discuss the details in person. My office is downtown, on 5th Street. Shall I put you down for 2 o'clock? After I hung up, I sat staring at the phone in my hand. A lawyer. Elliot had called a lawyer. That evening, when he came home with Mila, I was waiting in the kitchen with dinner ready and my best apologetic expression in place. "We need to talk," I said. "I know." He helped Mila with her backpack, his movements careful and deliberate. "But not tonight. Elliot, please. I know you're hurt, but we can work through this. I made mistakes, but I'm ready to fix them." He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my breath catch. It wasn't anger or hurt or even disappointment. It was resolution. "Some things," he said quietly, "can't be fixed." That night, he slept in the guest room again. And this time, I knew it wasn't temporary. The law offices of Martinez and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a downtown building I'd driven past 1,000 times without noticing. Now, sitting in the waiting room, with its neutral colors and quiet efficiency, I felt like I was in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language. Elliot was already there when I arrived, sitting across from a middle-aged man in an expensive suit who was spreading papers across a conference table. My husband looked different, more confident, more settled in his own skin than I'd seen him in years. "Mrs. Crowe," the lawyer said, standing to shake my hand, "I'm David Martinez. Thank you for coming." I took the seat across from Elliot, my hands trembling slightly. "I still don't understand why we need lawyers. We can work this out ourselves." "I'm afraid it's gone beyond that," Martinez said, settling back into his chair. "Your husband has filed for legal separation, with the intention of proceeding to divorce if certain conditions aren't met." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Divorce? Elliot, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," he said, his voice steady. "I've given this a lot of thought." Martinez opened a thick folder. "Let's start with the evidence of infidelity." He spread out a series of photographs across the table. Me and Ryder at various clubs and restaurants, holding hands, kissing, looking like a couple in every sense of the word. My stomach dropped as I recognized each scene, moments I'd thought were private, romantic, secret. "How did you—" "A private investigator," Elliot said simply. "I hired one 3 weeks ago." "You had me followed?" "I had my wife's activities documented. There's a difference." Martinez continued laying out evidence like he was dealing cards. Bank statements showing charges at expensive restaurants and clubs on nights when I'd claimed to be working late. Phone records showing hundreds of texts and calls to Ryder's number. Even printouts of social media posts from Ryder's friends showing me in the background at parties I'd never mentioned attending. I stared at the pile of evidence, feeling exposed and small. This is like something from a movie. This is reality, Martinez said, and it's all admissible in court. Court? My voice came out as a squeak. We're going to court? That depends on you, Elliot said. He pulled out another folder, this one thinner. I'm prepared to offer you a settlement. Martinez handed me a document that might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. The legal language was dense and intimidating, but certain phrases jumped out at me. Irreconcilable differences, division of assets, child custody arrangements. I don't understand most of this, I admitted. The simplified version, Martinez explained, is that your husband is offering you a fair division of assets in exchange for primary custody of your daughter and an uncontested divorce. Primary custody? I looked up sharply. You want to take Mila away from me? I want to provide her with stability, Elliot said. You've been absent from her life for weeks, Hypatia. She needs a parent who's actually present. I made some mistakes, but I'm still her mother. A mother who ignored her phone calls to spend time with your boyfriend. A mother who missed her school play, her parent-teacher conference, and her soccer games because you were too busy finding yourself. Each accusation was accurate, and that made them hurt worse. I can change. I can be better. Martinez consulted his notes. Mrs. Crowe, do you have legal representation? No. I didn't think I needed it. I'd strongly recommend you consult with an attorney before signing anything. This is a significant decision. I looked at the papers again, trying to process what was happening. What if I don't agree? What if I fight this? Then we go to court, Elliot said, and all of this becomes public record. The photos, the bank statements, the phone records, everything. The thought of our private business being aired in a courtroom, of Mila's friends' parents reading about my affair in the newspaper, made me feel sick. You planned this, I said. You've been planning this for weeks. I've been preparing for the inevitable, he corrected. You made your choice, Hypatia. You chose excitement over stability, passion over commitment, Ryder over your family. I'm just making it official. Ryder's out of the picture. It's over between us. Because he dumped you, not because you chose to end it. The bluntness of the statement made me flinch. It's more complicated than that. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you only came home after your affair partner decided he was done with you. Martinez cleared his throat diplomatically. Perhaps we should focus on the practical matters. Mrs. Crowe, you'll have visitation rights, of course. Every other weekend, holidays to be negotiated, and the financial settlement is quite generous, considering the circumstances. I stared at the papers, trying to imagine my life reduced to every other weekend visits with my own daughter, living alone in some apartment, explaining to everyone why my marriage had fallen apart. I need time to think about this. Of course, Martinez said, but I should mention that this offer has an expiration date. If it's not accepted within 30 days, we proceed to litigation. As we prepared to leave, I made one last attempt to reach the man I'd married. Elliot, please. We have 7 years together. We have a daughter. Doesn't that mean anything to you? He paused at the door, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the gentle man who used to bring me coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. It means everything to me, he said quietly. That's why I can't watch you destroy it anymore. Outside the building, I stood on the sidewalk watching my husband walk away, briefcase in hand, looking like a man who'd finally found his backbone. A month ago, I'd mocked him for being weak, for being boring, for not fighting for me. Now he was fighting, just not in the way I'd expected. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Samara told me about the lawyer meeting. Don't let him bully you, sweetheart. Men always try to make us feel guilty for wanting more from life. But as I looked up at the building where I'd just seen my marriage officially pronounced dead, I realized the guilt wasn't coming from Elliot. It was coming from the woman in those photographs, the one who'd traded her family's happiness for a few weeks of feeling special, the one who'd convinced herself she deserved better while systematically destroying everything good in her life. 2 weeks later, I signed the papers. Elliot got the house, primary custody of Mila, and most of our assets. I got a settlement that would let me start over, visitation rights, and the freedom I'd claimed to want so desperately. On the day I moved out, Mila cried and asked why Mommy couldn't just say sorry and come home. I tried to explain that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that can't be fixed with apologies, but how do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother chose temporary excitement over permanent love? 6 months later, I'm living in a downtown apartment, working the same marketing job, and dating sporadically. I see Mila every other weekend, and we're slowly rebuilding our relationship. She's adjusting well, according to her father, who sends polite updates about school events and soccer games I'm no longer invited to attend. Ryder never called again after that last text. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he's dating a 23-year-old Instagram influencer who fits better into his lifestyle than a suburban mother ever could. Elliot, meanwhile, seems happier than he's been in years. When I drop Mila off after our weekends together, I sometimes catch glimpses of the life I walked away from. Family movie nights, homework sessions at the kitchen table, the quiet contentment of people who chose each other every day instead of constantly looking for something better. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd appreciated what I had instead of chasing what I thought I wanted. If I'd put the same energy into my marriage that I put into my affair. If I'd remembered that boring and stable aren't the same thing as worthless, but some lessons can only be learned the hard way, and some choices can't be undone. I got exactly what I said I wanted: freedom, excitement, and the chance to discover who I really was outside of marriage and motherhood. It turns out I was someone I didn't particularly like,